2025 is here and we of course are going to continue creating videos for you. Also, something that never changes is we offer Windows 11 Pro retail keys. For just $12.50, purchase one today and you are good to go for the end of the year when Windows 10 is end of life. When Starfield was first unveiled, it promised an expansive universe teeming with exploration, adventure, and the hallmark storytelling of Bethesda. This was a game 25 years in the making, and anticipation soared as fans envisioned traversing the stars in a brand new groundbreaking space RPG from Bethesda. However, upon release, many players felt a void. The vastness of space felt eerily empty, with procedurally generated planets lacking distinctiveness and a narrative that struggled to captivate, so even the much anticipated Shattered Space expansion also couldn't fully address those shortcomings. But yeah, now what? What we need to do with Starfield? Well, enter Star Wars Genesis. This is an amazing transformative mod that reimagines Starfield as the Star Wars RPG fans have long yearned for. This was crafted by a dedicated modder named Daiti Venji, and this total conversion breathes new life into the game, fusing it with the rich lore of Star Wars, the characters, and the settings of the Star Wars universe. So this is something completely different and absolutely amazing. So from the bustling streets of Coruscant to the desolate sands of Tatooine, Star Wars Genesis replaces nearly every facet of the original Starfield game. So players can now wield lightsabers, pilot iconic starships from Star Wars, and engage in a reimagined main storyline that aligns with the Star Wars lore. So for many, this mod just doesn't enhance Starfield as a regular overhaul, but this really redeems it. This is really an amazing conversion which, brings an ode to the power of community-driven content in the same way that we have seen from Fallout London or the many other very big Skyrim overhauls, an example like Enderall. So this is something you have to try for yourself if you own Starfield and you're, pretty much like me, didn't really touch it after you finished the main questline. Imagine stepping into Starfield and finding yourself not into the settled systems, but amid the bustling streets of Coruscant, the arid landscapes of Tatooine, or the neon-lit alleys of Nar Shaddaa. This is a transformative power of Star Wars Genesis. So, developed by the dedicated modder DT Venji, Star Wars Genesis is more than just a mod. This is a complete total conversion that reimagines every asset of Starfield. From factions and weapons to environments and narratives, the mod pack replaces or enhances elements to craft an authentic Star Wars experience. So at its core, Star Wars Genesis introduced a fully rewritten and revoiced main storyline, immersing players in a narrative that aligns with the Star Wars universe. With over 10,000 new voice lines and a comprehensive overhaul of in-game dialogues, this mod ensures that every interaction feels genuine and lore appropriate. So the transition doesn't only stop there, because iconic Star Wars locations have been really well done recreated, allowing players to explore planets like Genesis, Ilum, and Kuat, and each environment is enriched with custom textures, atmospheric effects, and ambient sounds that transport players to a galaxy far, far away. So the mod also introduces an amazing amount of Star Wars themed equipment, from wielding blasters and donning Mandalorian armor to the piloting of the Millennium Falcon. Players can fully immerse themselves in the roles of their favorite Star Wars characters. So complementing these visuals and gameplay enhancements is a complete overhaul of the game's audio. The original soundtrack is replaced with iconic Star Wars music and sound effects. From blaster fire to ambient noise, all are tailored to match the franchise's distinct auditory signature. So in essence, Star Wars Genesis doesn't just only mods or modify Starfield, it really transforms it into a complete Star Wars RPG like Knights of the Old Republic, and this is something that fans have long desired. We're not waiting for a Star Wars game from Ubisoft, we're waiting for something amazing like this. And this is a really, really big compliment to the modding community, and I would say this is a mod you have to check out for yourself. I would say in this chapter, let's summarize the key features of Star Wars Genesis. I've talked about some of them already, but I think it is important for you to understand this is a completely new game at this point. So this isn't really a mod which overhauls some textures. This is a full overhaul that redefines the Starfield experience into a Star Wars game. So, an example, like I said, we have completely new main storyline. This has nothing to do with Starfield. This is now a Star Wars game. 10,000 new voice lines, a complete overhaul of the in-game dialogues. Everything feels genuine and lore appropriate regarding the Star Wars universe. We have the equipment and the factions only from Star Wars, nothing to do with Starfield anymore. So from the blasters and the Mandalorian armors, but also the ships like the Millennium Falcon, you can now fully immerse yourself in the role of your favorite Star Wars character. Something I would like to add upon is the immersive audio experience. This is usually very underrated in games, but these, completing these visuals and gameplay enhancement is the overhaul of the game's audio, and this is so important. The original soundtrack is replaced with the iconic Star Wars music and the iconic sound effects and also even ambient sounds. So this makes it really believable you're actually playing a Star Wars game and not a Starfield game. Also, the enhanced gameplay, we have many new enhanced gameplay mechanics. It's quite a lot. There's a big list on the Nexus page from this mod. I would say read it for yourself, but this is not fully basic Starfield anymore. This is really having some amazing enhanced gameplay mechanics. And last but not least, I would say this is a very user-friendly installation. You don't need to install hundreds of mods manually yourself because this comes with a Wabbajack all-in-one automated installer. And for the ones who followed my tutorials and used Wabbajack already, Wabbajack does everything for you. You don't need to edit files, you don't need to spend an entire rainy Sunday setting this up. Wabbajack downloads everything, installs everything. It can't be done easier. So, regarding installation and accessibility via the Wabbajack, there are some things you should know. First of all, the installation requirements. Before diving in, ensure you have the following. That is the Steam version of Starfield. Unfortunately, Game Pass and Microsoft Store versions are not supported due to modding limitations. Also, unfortunately, I have to say you need to have the Shattered Space expansion. However, these can be found relatively cheap on key sites, so if you can get it on sale, you need to have it unfortunately for this to work. You also need to have a fresh save, and a new Game Plus save will not be compatible. The language needs to be set to English to ensure all text and dialogue functions correctly. And you need to have the latest Microsoft Visual C++ distribution installed on your system, but that's relatively easy and it is free. So regarding installation steps to summarize this a little bit, of course make sure to check the ReadMe. We can download the latest version of Wabbajack, and this is the all-in-one automated installer, so the tool. Then you can download the Star Wars Genesis Modlist from the official website. Then what it is, relatively simple, run the Wabbajack and select that Star Wars Genesis Modlist, follow the on-screen instructions, and Wabbajack will handle downloading and configuring all necessary mods for you. So once that's complete, you can launch the game through Mod Organizer 2, which Wabbajack sets up during installation. And this works the same as you have used Wabbajack and Mod Organizer 2 for Skyrim and Fallout. It is the same exact way to mod and launch the games. So I would like to add, if you have Nexus Premium, then you really have a fully automated install process. If you don't have Nexus Mod Premium, first of all, the downloads will be slower and you need to manually confirm every download. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. So one last thing, the limitations. It is important to note that due to technical constraints, it is not compatible with, of course, the consoles, but also not with the Game Pass version or Microsoft Store version of Starfield. You only need to have the Steam version. Also, I would like to always address this. Don't install Starfield on your program files or program files 86 folder because it will give you issues with modding usually. Change the library to something like C Games Steam, or install or create a new Steam library on another SSD if you have. That's important to have a solid foundation to mod your Starfield into Star Wars Genesis. Let's address the elephant in the room. Why does Star Wars Genesis redeem Starfield? So when Starfield launched, it promised an expansive universe filled with exploration and adventure. However, eventually many players felt it lacked the depth and immersion expected from what Bethesda promised us. So now finally with Star Wars Genesis, we have a mod that doesn't just enhance Starfield, but it completely redefines it into a complete new game. So Star Wars Genesis definitely transforms the game's universe, introducing iconic locations like Coruscant and Narsada, and now we have the generic factions finally with Star Wars lore. So this mod does definitely something different, and it forgets you a little bit about the somewhat emptiness of what Starfield is. But beyond these aesthetics, the mod introduces also gameplay enhancement, and it has an improved third-person combat, an example, dynamic weather systems, and of course the amazing immersive audio experiences with authentic Star Wars soundtracks. So players have lauded the mod for, rekindling their interest back in Starfield, with one stating, "It made me love Starfield, but it made me love Star Wars even more." So in essence, Star Wars Genesis doesn't just modify and it's another just a fun mod on top of Starfield. It completely changed it into a new Star Wars RPG. And I think this is really important because, I would say also Starfield can be picked up relatively cheap nowadays. If you go to the CD Key websites, you can buy it, I don't know, for less than €10. And if you add the DLC on top of it, maybe you're $15, €15. But then you can also play Star Wars Genesis like a fully new Star Wars RPG. And I think that is really justifiable to get Starfield, because Starfield is not a bad game per se. I had lots of fun. It is an interesting main storyline. I would say it is a very interesting ending. That's been done very well, and it really integrates very well with the new game plus. But Star Wars Genesis, I mean, with that you have two games pretty much for the price of one. So let's jump to a conclusion. As we've journeyed through the expansive features and transformative impact that Star Wars Genesis has, it is evident that this is not any of your typical mods. This is a complete reimagination of Starfield into a brand new Star Wars RPG. So from the amazing crafted environments that transport you into the iconic Star Wars locations, and the overall narratives and gameplay mechanics that breathe absolutely new life into the game, I would say Star Wars Genesis stands as a completely new product. And if you own Starfield and you don't know what to do anymore with this game, now is your chance to get back. So for fans of the Star Wars universe, but also those seeking a more newer Starfield experience, this mod is just a no-brainer. It comes with a Wabbajack all-in-one automated installer, and it is free, so there's no reason for you not to install it, in my opinion. And I would say check it out for yourself, and you're going to love it. So if you're going to play this mod, or if you, I'm just curious what your opinion is upon it. Let me know that in the comment section, and I hope to see you at one of my next videos.